Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's that time again. What is it? What are we doing? Oh, yeah, we're doing news. No, we're not doing News of the Squared. This is the wrong show.
Not yet. No, we're in the wrong show. Oh.
Oh, man. I told you not to take that left in Albuquerque. We're supposed to be doing
something like that. Okay, yeah. So welcome to the Squares of the Roundtable podcast now that I've screwed up the intro. My name is Jeff Stein, and with me are Mike Boyle and Ivan Rivera and our intern. He's such a pain in the ass, that Mike Edwin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, good thing we don't pay him.
Yeah, seriously. We pay him with Ivan's shitty records.
Ivan doesn't
have the good ones.
Yeah,
the bad ones.
All of my discards, yeah. We pay we'll pay with all the scratchy copies of Moody River we can find.
Right. I think that comes out to being what, $1.50?
Yeah,
but the only record player he has is just a Fisher Price one that plays the plastic records.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, you mean the ones that sound like
a music box?
Like a music box?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good Lord.
Well, so let's get started, eh? So Jeff, what'd you do this week?
What did I do this week? Well, I won a contest over the weekend, so there's that.
Ooh.
I read about that.
I competed on Sunday morning, and I won what's called Table Topics, which is they come up with a question, and I got to answer it. And so, so that was that. And, It's weird because that level of contest, it's like kind of that second level. For some strange reason on that second level, it's like the Bermuda Triangle of contests. I don't know why. Things can get weird there. Like judges do weird things. They make mistakes. Timers fall asleep. Weird things happen. So, you're always like, man, I just want to get through area because, God. I mean, area is one of those things where it's like if you've got a heart condition, you better take your medication.
Oh, it sounds painful.
It can be, because it's weird. Area is one of those times where it's like, you could have the best speech and someone goes, oh, well, that person talked about kittens. I love kittens. I'm voting for them first. And you're like,
okay.
You didn't even
but they had no
speech.
Oh no, they heard the speech.
Okay.
It was, even though the other person could have like phenomenal sentence structure and have had a great point and everything. Well, I voted for the other one because I like kittens.
Because of the subject matter and not because of the content.
Well, it has nothing to do with that. Even just it's like, no, I just like kittens.
I'd rather hear about kittens.
And again, I'm being simplistic about this,
right.
and being ridiculously over the top. But I'm just using that as an example. So,
all right.
I mean, in fairness, I did lose one time at area to somebody who talked about putting their dog in a fucking Wonder Woman costume.
Okay.
I really did. And I'm like...
I'm totally getting annoyed at this thing.
It's not annoying. It's just like, after a while, it's like, you really just want to be like, these are great stories that I can tell somewhere else. I just haven't figured out where. Because you don't want to offend anybody about weird things that have happened like that, But anyway, yeah, so I won area in that particular contest.
Oh, congratulations.
I do have another one coming up in a couple of weeks where I'm in a different category for something for a humorous contest, and I gotta be honest, it's hard because I can't just go out there and do like a comedy act, if you know what I mean. I have to actually have like a real kind of like a speech thing, but they want me to be ha-ha. I can't do like zingers and sarcastic stuff, and I can't use words like shit and fuck, and I can't be too obscene. So sometimes I'm just like, well, what am I going to do then?
Sounds like a failed class at Columbia University. My God.
No, it's you know what it is? It reminds me of the old style humor in some ways, in that it's okay, I'm going to tell a funny story and I'm going to give you they want something that's belly laugh, not something where it's like Fozzie Bear humor, like throw the tomato at me, but it's still technically funny.
It almost borders on, well, I can tell this story in a double entendre style that will do its best not to offend most people, but it will offend some.
And again, it depends. I mean, it's gotten better over the years than when I started, but there are certain times it's like, it really kind of depends too where you're at, or, some place, again, this is an example of depends on what judges you run into. If you got one person who's like, oh, that's offensive, versus someplace else where they're like, oh, that was really funny, and didn't look at it as offensive. Somebody could tell a really funny, well put together speech, but if somebody tells a really bwahaha story, the bwahaha story probably usually wins. I always laugh because I always feel like it's like flip a coin, if you know what I mean. So
the judgment, the parameters for judging who the best is, seems like they're quite nebulous.
They have criteria, but when you're talking about the humorous speech contest, and I fall into this too. I've fallen into this too when I judge, which is, look, I'm looking, yes, it'd be great to have sentence structure. It'd be great to have all these things. But at the end of the day, if it's not funny, I don't really give a shit. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be humorous on some level,
That's the joke.
Well, it's difficult because, speech making and, toasting as you do and actually doing stand-up comedy are just there's such diverse worlds. Yeah. And to try to incorporate one of the different sections into a particular seems quite difficult. I mean, because, you're trying to impress upon the people that, yes, I do have perfect I have perfect wording, and I have great sentence structure, and I have great intonation, and my enunciating of syllables and vowels.
Oh yeah, some of that I don't. Okay, so I've learned a long time ago. Some of that you don't do.
See, so I've
learned a long time ago. In terms of, like, for example, not, like, I've used gonna, or I've used y'all, or I've used ain't, that kind of, those types of words, because I figured out a long time ago that sometimes words like that have the ability to draw people in because they're more common.
Yeah, they're more folksy.
And more folksy.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you're more of it, not
you're more akin to your audience because you're able to include these words. Mm-hmm. I hadda, I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda.
Well, and if it makes sense, then I'm throwing them in. If it doesn't make sense, I'm not. But again, that's the part where I want to be more conversational. I want to be more relatable. I mentioned more about what I'm doing I guess I could sort of mention what I'm doing for humorous because I don't know that anybody's really listening who will catch this as a judge. So I'm basically telling. So you guys remember, like, for a while when I had the Waze app. I have the Waze app for my car. And for a while, they gave me the option to have Cookie Monster as a voice.
Yeah, we talked about this. Yeah.
Right. So I basically sat there and said that I've had a relationship with Cookie Monster now.
I like that.
And I start out where I make it sound like, oh my God, is Jeff Stein coming out? And then I put up the picture of Cookie Monster. I mean, everybody dies.
I think that's great. I think that's a stroke of genius.
It's like I said, I wasn't going to compete in this contest, and all of a sudden I'm like, what if I did this? And I'm like, okay, let's see if we can give it a shot.
That's why they call it challenge, man. You're heading up to the challenge. That's a beautiful thing.
Well, and in fairness, like the one I gave last year was more of a comedy bit than it was a story. And there were some people, I had a feeling that if I ran into the wrong people, they were going to be like, I don't get it. And unfortunately, I ran into the wrong people, and they were like, I don't get it. And I'm like, okay.
Right, so it's like Tom Hanks in Big with the robot building. I don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes. Except the more amusing part was last time when I did this, I had people laughing more than the other person. Again, this is the example of where, okay, I made more people laugh, but you gave it to the other guy because you felt he had more structure? What? I'm confused because I've done this the other way where I've had more structure and I've lost to the person who had more laughs. So make up your freaking mind.
Like I said, the judging parameters seem crazy.
Well, for the humorous, it does. I mean, in fairness, in general, it does. But for the humorous, it's even more ridiculous. But of the 4 contests, this is the one where I'm always like, this is like a crapshoot. It's just like throwing darts at a board and praying you hit the middle.
Well, it seems like, the judges it's so subjective,
Oh, of course it's subjective.
Yeah, but I'm saying more, I think more so than in many different cases. I mean, I find that when you talk about this, anything that has to do with judging, of course you're going to have your people that are a little bit more open-minded about certain aspects of it. You're going to run into people that are just hardcore by the book. You're going to run into people that are just, they're going to poo-poo everything. You're going to have your Simon guy in there that's always going to, poo-poo everything no matter how good your thing is.
The irony is usually when I'm evaluating people, I'm Simon.
Well, see, yeah. Well,
I will admit that off the bat.
If anybody, you don't seem to have a British accent.
Well, yeah, I know.
It was just bad karaoke, okay.
But he's got the looks, though.
Oh, quite dashing.
Oh, that's the other thing. I finally got a haircut.
Yeah, Samson trimmed his locks, man.
Oh my God.
I saw that picture.
Wait, it was great. So I walk in and I'm like,
did you scare anybody?
Did you say, what year is it?
Well, actually, my first question was, I'm like, out of curiosity, when was the last time I came in to get a haircut? Because that was the last place I got a haircut. And I know they store that information. And anyone want to take a wild guess?
I don't know. Well, obviously, the lockdown's been for 7 months, so 7 months?
I want to say maybe a year.
About 50 weeks.
Yeah, it was about a year. Okay.
Almost about a year.
Wow.
Almost about a year. I was like, I knew it had been a long time. I just didn't realize it had been that long.
Wow.
Yeah, it was funny. I was about to try to get a haircut right when all this shit happened, and I'm like,
yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going. So like the last 7 months, I just let it grow, and I'm like, okay, I need to get a haircut.
Yeah, I think I forget when I got mine. I think it was like maybe July. I don't remember, but it was pretty long, and I was pretty itchy and antsy. So I remember having to wait in line, but at the door because all the other men wanted to get their hair cut, and it was like just annoying.
See, that's the other reason I didn't run right away was because
the lines, yeah.
And I figured, okay, it's going to be really, really like a pain in the ass, and it's going to be busy, and there's going to be, the odds are bad.
Yeah,
versus I walked in like the other day on a Friday morning, and I was just like, it was pretty much me,
Oh, there you go.
Well, this is a slow time now because when we get closer to mid-November, then the holidays are coming, and people are going to want to be nice for pictures anyway for the holidays. So. Well,
the other thing is too, I walked in at like 10 o'clock in the morning on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are usually either at work and kids are at school. So I'm like, I'm going to be, especially in the middle of October, it's like, or beginning of October. So I'm like, yeah, I figured that would be smarter and that would get me away from, more people than not. So.
I just cut out the middleman. I cut out the middleman myself. I just had Julie just take the electric shaver and I just took it all down. I mean, all the way down. I mean, the poor girl was mortified. She's like, your hair's never going to grow back from this. I'm like, honey, you have no idea how fast this thing grows. I mean, Mike knows, you know. I mean, I could be short-headed, and then here it is a month later, I'm a big poof again.
Chia, Ivanhead.
Yeah, I'm totally.
Yeah, man, just pour water.
Yeah, I am a chichilla. It's true.
God.
So what I did, so I told Julie, she buzzed cut me, and then I looked at the mirror and I'm like, no, take it all the way down. She goes, no. I'm like, all of it gone. I was
Curly
a bald
Howard.
Yeah, I was a Curly Howard. Oh yeah. And you know, I found it refreshingly comfortable to be bald. You know, so at least if I no longer grow any more hair, I'm not going to be any different about it than anything. You know, most men are just like, oh my God, I'm losing my hair. I'm getting a bald spot. My hairline's receding. And oh my God, I'm like, people, please, it's only hair. Okay, so it's like, you know, it's not like your life depends on the fact that you got a full crown of hair on your head, you know, and it's like, but I guess more people it depends on the person. I guess more people have a certain vanity or a certain look that they want to, you know, to go to, you know, whatever part of life that they live in. But for me, it's like, yeah, I've shaved my head numbers of times over the years, and it's just like, you know, and not right now as I'm sitting here with you guys. Yeah, I got a really cool head of hair again. You know, in fact, I went on Facebook earlier and I shared. And
hello?
One of the comments, I'm here.
Okay. You're scratchy there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
One of the comments was, get your hair cut, man. I'm just like, all right, I'm not that deep yet. I do manage to keep the sideburns and the beard and things under control. So I'm sporting a clean look right now. So it's fine. I mean, because to have the beard and the goatee after a while, you know, especially I get to a point where once all the hair starts growing in, if I don't maintain it, it starts to itch and it starts to make me crazy. You know, not to mention that sometimes the hair just gets in the way of the food. Or you start smelling certain things underneath your nose, you know, and you're just like, geez, what's that funky smell? You know, you're like, but but that's, you know, but I think, as far as you had stated, yeah, I'm sure once November, you know, kicks in and everything with the holidays, you know, people start getting cleaned up and made nice and trying to make some semblance of some kind of holiday spirited feeling in the last part of this awesomely crummy year that we've had.
So you guys going to be passing out candy for Halloween?
No. Unfortunately,
well,
do you have a lot of kids in your building?
I thought you were talking.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. No, we don't have a lot of kids in the building, and I live in I live in a gated community, so it's kind of like, you know, for me to go out there when it's either going to be rainy or really cold and everything, holding out a bag for candy, and then of course, it's not as much, and especially now that this year being what it is, I doubt that parents are going to be letting their kids out to do anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked at all at this point. Parents and kids are, all this stuff is weird. We're you know, I don't know. Like I said, although it's funny, I saw a couple people come up with some ingenuitive stuff, like where they've got like a little tube where
I
throw it down the tube
like
and
a
it goes
PVC
down the
tube
banister.
down your front stoop. Yeah,
I saw that.
It goes down the banister.
Yeah, that's clever.
That was clever. That's really, really clever.
And also you can slide a can of beer down there.
Yeah, that too. I was for like more taking the mini-sized bars and putting them in like one of those Nerf guns and firing them.
Yeah, this is that meme.
At the kids, I'm like,
the fun-sized candy launcher. Yeah.
The only problem is you got to reduce the pressure in there for fear you're going to end up splotching a whole bunch of kids with chocolate. You know.
I failed to see why this is a problem.
Well, for you. You
Open wide, little Jimmy.
You would just enjoy it way too much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially if I did it from the balcony. Hey, here you go!
Yeah, like
Somebody get this on film! Somebody get this on film!
that just kind of slightly reminded me of Dumbo in the scene where he's flying around the tent and he's pelting the audience and everybody with peanuts, you know. You see Jeff up on the end of on the top of the building and everything. Happy Halloween! Then Mommy, when you got chocolate all over your head? Jeff,
I was in the store the other day because now we're in full Halloween swing, and all the freaking school supplies are on clearance. Like whole aisles of like folders and binders of books and pencils and glues and stuff. All of it's on clearance because none of the kids didn't go to school this year.
So can't you just?
No, they're going to school. They're just not going to school.
Right, to school. Right.
Yeah.
Well, can't you just store that in the corner of the storage at the store, or do you have to just get rid of it as much as you can?
You can't let it sit for a whole year. You got to make some money off of it. You'd be eating it, but you got to make some. You got to turn around because you can't let it sit for a year and try and resell it next year. It's just gonna be dank and dusty.
I guess unless of course
I like that girl. She's my favorite.
Dank and dusty.
Yeah. Dank and dusty.
Right. On your,
she works.
I'm sure she's got an OnlyFans account.
Club.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about that. Dank and dusty.
So, Ivan, how was your week?
Well, this week was full of surprises. I mean,
which surprises? We like surprises.
Well, yeah. Well, Julie came home this weekend, and we all got to, her and I got to hang around together. Soraya and her boyfriend Russell came by, and we did some Lou Malnati's pizza.
Ooh.
So we did that, and and of course, seems like Russell and Soraya have gotten themselves in a little bit of a business making
meth?
brownies and Rice Krispie style treats and things like this in the kitchen.
Special ingredients in the brownies?
Yeah, special ingredients.
Yes, they're loaded, and they seem to be making a nice little bit of change out of that, which is fine. It's
are they made with real brownies?
Yes.
Really?
Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
Yeah, that kind of brownie.
I'm
Wednesday
sorry,
Addams Family.
Sorry, I had a boomer moment.
That's the joke.
That's the joke. Okay,
that's a great Halloween movie. Is the Addams Family, the first one?
Is it?
I like it.
The
first one.
The first Addams Family movie was great, but the second one, Addams Family Values, not so much.
Yeah, the second one where like Fester becomes like he marries
he marries this crazy lady who
is that the one that had
Joan
MC
Cusack.
Hammer?
Joan Cusack and tries to kill him off.
That was the song they made for the sequel. Yeah.
Isn't that they go where they want to go, say what they want to say. The Addams Family.
Yeah.
MC Hammer, did that. I think that was the last money thing he ever did before he ended up filing for bankruptcy. But anyway, that's a whole.
He had something else where there's a song that he did where he decided to go
a
little bit too hardcore. Where that was something that I remember that was pretty good. Or he actually tried to go a little more.
He tried to be a little more
gangster rap, and there was something that I was surprised that I didn't realize was MC Hammer. Yeah. Well, no, it was kind of
Well, I think it was the demands from Capitol that he kind of try to
go in a different direction.
Go in a different direction with some of the more mainstream, harder core acts that were at the label, and he just didn't make the cut. So,
well, it's not so much that. I mean, it was a weird time. It was a weird time for rap because you had a few acts that were really, really commercial that had become more commercialized, in the late 80s.
Right.
Like, you had you went from your Beastie Boys and Run DMC where they were commercial, but they were still grounded in culture.
And they had cred.
And they had cred.
Yeah.
And MC Hammer had cred, but MC Hammer was more Michael Jackson
right.
than he was Run DMC or
he was more
Boys.
polished. Well, he was more polished than the Run with the Run DMC or the Beastie Boys.
He was more marketable to the masses.
Right, and there's a period there where rap is that more marketable. It looks like it's going to move that direction. Eventually it does, but it doesn't do that right. It kind of takes a left turn when West Coast gangster rap shows up and basically pretty much takes over rap.
Well, yeah, that whole hardcore, NWA, Wu-Tang Clan, Biggie, Puff Daddy, Tupac, Straight Outta Compton, that whole movement came into play and just decided.
I mean, the only guy who really survived that. There were only two people who really kind of survived in that time frame, which was that were not that kind of way. Well, no, because LL Cool J kind of went a little bit on the hard edge with Mama Said Knock You Out, and that kind of pushed him through at a time when that was not LL Cool J's style.
No, he managed to float. He managed to float by with that particular. Whereas you had a lot of people who tried to do that. You didn't. Of course, you also had the cases. You had your Vanilla Ices. You had
but Vanilla Ice, as soon as it was done, it was done. Whereas
it was done. You had your Kid and Play. You had
the one guy who floated through that time period, who was Teflon and did okay, was Will Smith.
Okay, yeah, because he managed to evolve with certain aspects of his style. I mean, when he was with Jazzy Jeff and everything way in the beginning, parents just didn't understand, and he had the show, which helped him a lot too because he got that.
And then he had done the movies too. He was starting to be the movie guy too, so that didn't hurt either.
So he was the triple threat. By the time, he didn't even need to make any new records. I mean, he did the Wild Wild West, which I believe was
Kevin
was
Kline,
also,
Well, he did the Men in Black. He did the original Men in Black CD.
Yes,
but he
did.
had stuff before that. I mean, he had like.
Well, no, like I said, he was on Jive. I mean, Parents Just Don't Understand was a big one.
No, but beyond that, I mean, he had Miami.
He had
Miami. Then he had
Miami, right?
There was a bunch of stuff in the late 90s.
Yeah,
that comes back where he had a real, good spot.
Well, yeah, he got a little edgier as time went on.
That Summertime song, which is phenomenal.
Right? Yeah,
I remember when that came out. Yeah,
that thing's even huge. Today. That's a good slow jam. That's a nice. Kind of jam kind of thing.
Well, it's a nice chill piece of work, and it's, and I have to give that to you because, especially when, Will, changed labels when Jive was just kind of like holding him back, and then he went out and then in other words, after he got his cred in the show, in the movies, and then he was able to make some moves and say, well, Jive, thank you, but, this other label over here is willing to give me creative license, creative control, so I'm going to go take advantage of that. And he managed to move forward. Where a lot of guys were trapped by their labels or trapped by their producers in certain ways, which prohibited a lot of growth in a lot of that type of music, so in that community. But as far as, going back to the Addams Family, as far as, this is the Addams Family with MC Hammer and everything. And, I know that after a while, his whole world just kind of caved in and he just he is yet to.
He didn't, handle his money well.
No, he did not.
No.
He did not. He
did kind of come back a little bit, but it took a long time. I mean, he kind of disappeared for a while. But he sort of made a comeback of sorts a little bit.
Some reality TV and some commercials.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, he got into the religious sect for a while.
Right. He was a reverend, wasn't he?
He was a reverend. He was a reverend, and so he used that as a shelter, to kind of help him through this whole, oh my gosh, exceeding to excess lifestyle that ended up, falling on him after the success of, you can't touch this, and Hammer Don't Hurt Him. The album went big. I mean, I think it's a case of he got too big too quick and didn't know what was coming at him. It just came at him too quick. It happens a lot.
Maybe he had a manager that mishandled his funds too. I think.
The other thing is MC Hammer was notorious for the fact that he had one of these ridiculously monstrous entourages where he paid everybody, and I mean everybody. It could be like, what do you do? I don't know. I just hang out here. Here's some money. You're getting paid on the payroll. I mean, that was the story. Was MC Hammer had 300 people on his payroll.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, if you look on his videos, you see all.
And I'm not just talking about dancers. I'm just talking just in general. I mean, he brought the whole neighborhood with him or something.
Yeah, I mean, people just standing around, sitting on their steps, sitting in their cars, walking down the street and everything. Hey, you got to look. Here's a couple thousand for your day. It was ridiculous proportions, and I think didn't MC kind of admit that when Arsenio Hall was the big nighttime show for a while? I mean, remember, I think
in the 90s, it would have been the same time period.
I mean, MC Hammer at one point had racehorses.
Yes, he did. You're right.
I mean, one of them came in top 3 of the Kentucky Derby too.
Right.
If I remember correctly, one time.
Well, no, you're right. You're right. No, you're right. And he made some good investments, and then his manager it's not that he made great investments, and then he spent it was yeah. He spent it
and in some ways, a lot of the people he was with, it wasn't necessarily the agents or anything like that. Like I said, he just spent.
Yeah, like I said, when he went broke, he easily could have gone the way of an E True Hollywood Story. I mean,
right.
Well, he kept him going.
Well, he does have I think they do have a behind the music MC Hammer, don't they? I think so.
Probably.
I'm pretty sure. I remember watching it. I feel
either that or what was it? Let me see.
VH1's behind the music.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So there you go. But
did you ever see where they do the Simpsons episode? That's the VH1 behind the music Simpsons episode.
No, I didn't.
No, I've never seen that.
There's one that's supposedly like that, where I haven't seen it either, but there's supposedly one where it was near the end of the season or something like that, and it's all kind of that kind of thing.
I saw something.
It's a behind the music kind of thing.
I saw something similar to that on Robot Chicken, but it was about the Muppets, which
the Dr. Teeth and whatever the band
Dr.
from
Teeth and the Electric Mayhem,
right.
It's funny. They really should do that would be a funny spoof thing to do, for Disney to do, and now behind the music, Dr. Teeth and that'd be hysterical. They should do that. They really should.
Well, that would be entertaining. It probably won't be as dark as they did it on Robot Chicken, and I'm sure, if the company is allowed to laugh at itself, can you imagine its own characters? I mean, they did it at Warner Brothers. There's several Warner Brothers cartoons where you see Bugs Bunny in a custom robe and everything. He goes, and of course, this is what I did in the 1930s when I was a young rabbit, and they did stuff like this.
Right, I remember those. There were some movies that were full-length movies.
Yeah,
they did stuff like that.
They took a bunch of shorts and they animated some new content.
Yeah, they put the new animation around it. Yeah, and they opened it up. I mean, Popeye had several of them in his career too. Yeah.
Speaking of which, did either of you see the trailer for the for the new Snoopy Peanut stuff that Apple TV's doing.
I see you posted it to the Squares page, but I haven't watched it yet. But it's the
Good.
70th anniversary of Charlie Brown.
It's brand new stuff.
Yeah, this is the first new content since the movie.
Right. It looks great. I mean, it was really funny too. I was like, you know what? Good for them. Good. I hope it works. I hope it works, and I hope that kids love it. And,
well, it'll definitely introduce a new generation to Peanuts, and I mean, they've always been. I have to say, Bill Melendez and Schultz, when they created that whole when Schultz created that whole series back in 1950, that's when it first began. They were called We People. That's what it was known, in the beginning. And then it evolved into Peanuts, and then there was a little story, I think it was like in the late 60s, when Malcolm was introduced to the Peanuts gang, the first black...
Franklin.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, Franklin. Yeah, the first black character, which that happened upon the receipt of a letter that he got. And it was like, well, why aren't there any black characters in Peanuts? And then when Franklin was created, and there was an outcry.
There was a backlash from
there was a backlash from publishers, from editors saying, hey, wait a minute. I like the strip just the way it is. Why are we adding a black character to the strip? Why are we doing that? And Schultz just simply said, accept it or I leave. And you're talking about back in the day when newspaper circulation was in the millions.
Yeah, and printed media was the only way to get a lot of news.
Right. Yeah, so that's how he was able to do that and have it grow and foster over the years, which there's a lot to be said about Schultz.
Yeah, because they made the movie, and I think there was some stipulation because the movie was being made, but as he died, it was in production or something. And I think his children or something have like the rights to the franchise or whatever. But there's a stipulation, I think, in his will that they can't. The creation of new content is like has to be like true to the source material or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So it cannot just make them all cool and fresh and have Snoopy put out a rap album, it can't have anything like that, No,
it cannot be reinvented.
Right.
That's pretty much the stipulation in the paperwork. It couldn't be reinvented. If you're going to make Peanuts, it's got to be just as it was. Although there were some very not too good newer Peanuts animation that came out for a while there.
I remember. I think there was a series in the 80s. I think.
Yeah,
it's here and gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the people, and I almost hate bringing this up, but there's the people that are not happy with the Thanksgiving thing, where the whole thing about how Franklin's sitting by himself on the one side of the
Oh yeah, I remember everyone making a stink about that. All these years watching the Thanksgiving special, all of a sudden someone makes a comment about Franklin sitting by himself at the end of the table.
Or no, it's the other side of the table because
right,
I just looked just to see what it was. But yeah, well, anyway, like I said,
And Bill Menendez addressed this with the studio, because it was a studio that they did all of those cartoons in, and he had questioned that with the higher up, saying, why do we have Franklin sitting on the other side of the table by himself? Well, the thing about it that was told to Bill Melendez was that certain states are not going to still be okay with the fact that Franklin is sitting with everybody else. And it became a bone of contention for a long time. Schultz absolutely hated the fact that the scene was actually made. He didn't want that in the cartoon, but also too, he said, but also they put it to him as well, either you do Franklin this way or Franklin's not going to be in it at all. And that's what happened there. So with that being said,
that's interesting. That's the first time I've actually heard it from that perspective. That's interesting because that never gets talked about as to what is involved, what was involved with that or why. It's always, just get rid of it.
Yeah, but I'm putting it in its proper perspective, because there's a lot of people don't understand that there are certain things that take place when you're drafting a story, when you're doing storyboarding, when you're doing all of these things to create a 30-minute or 1-hour cartoon. And of course, at the time, with the Nielsen ratings, and with the situations being that television survived on those numbers, but yet,
sure,
you know, you have to consider too that about those numbers, where are those numbers coming from in different parts of the country back in the 1960s and the 1970s. And with that being considered, you have to take into account,
demographics were different back then. It's not what it is today, where
everything is acceptable now, where back then that wasn't.
Well, not even that. I mean, the populations were different in terms of how many people we had that were people of color, just in general. And when I say that, I mean Latino. I know.
You mean the whole spectrum. You mean the whole spectrum. Yeah, and you know, in respect to that, yes, of course, I totally understand. And with that in mind, back then, you know, it was an appeasal of the people, because they were the one that spent their advertising dollars to give them the money to make these things in the first place. And so certain things they took on board because of this. So that is why, you know, Franklin was sitting at the other end of the table, other side of the table. Why? Because, if it was a scene that could be easily sliced out, they could do it in certain markets, or it could it could soften the blow in particular markets. But it was manipulative of that situation, which is not a new thing. I mean, it goes back to one of my favorite stories about Benny Goodman when he filmed Orchestra Wives back in the 1930s. Now, mind you, Benny Goodman, being the beautiful Jewish person that he is, he stood up to a director because, mind you, Teddy Wilson and Lionel Hampton are black against, you know, Gene Krupa and, of course, Benny himself, who were white. And the director said, well, we're going to make this scene, but, you know, it's not going to be in all the prints of the movie. And Benny asked why. He says, well, because down south, this is not an accepted thing. And Benny says, well, either you have all of us or you have none of us. And he threatened to leave the movie. And the movie was 3/4 of the way done. So, you know, they took it all the way up to Jack Warner, who was, you know, the big wig over at Warner Brothers at the time, and said, okay, well, give Mr. Benny what he wants. Why is this a thing? And, you know, that was a huge gamble to have that movie, you know, complete and uncut going across the United States in the 1930s with the way people felt about race relations back then. See, so this was not a new thing, but it has become watered down as time has gone by. But not at the time of the Peanuts special, especially
obviously, case in point being the whole Green Book movie. I mean,
right,
things were back then.
That's how things were.
Sadly.
And to that, and in that regard, yes, we have come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. But strides have been made, but bigger strides need to be made. So that way, someday, you know, when a person wants to make a film or wants to do a documentary or wants to make a cartoon or anything, that, you know what, we're all going to be in the same frame. And we won't have to question why people are placed the way that they're placed in the frame. So it just comes down to that. As far as the Thanksgiving special, I mean, I know, are the major markets still even running that on Thanksgiving?
ABC still runs it. Yeah. They even made one later where, like, Charlie Brown tells a story of the Pilgrims, how the hardships, how they traveled across the Atlantic and how, you know, many of them died, actually. They even, like, coldly, like, explained, like, yeah, not everybody's gonna make it.
Right. But that was also Schultz's creed to that whole thing. I mean, for being blatantly honest and straightforward when it came down to facts as to what he wanted to present for the strip. And even when his strip was in circulation, he had his fair share of, mean letters and outcries and editors, holding up their head and saying, "Why did you say that?" Well, because it needed to be said and it needed to be represented because these are the times we live in. And why are we going to shirk ourselves from putting what is the truth out there or what is the obvious out there,
Yeah, but I mean, Peanuts being like one of the most innocuous comic strips out there, sometimes would hit hard on some issues, but
right.
Versus something that I think Mike watched this week.
What's that?
Didn't you watch the South Park
Yes,
thing?
I did watch the South Park pandemic special. I'm sorry, before I finish, did you have anything else, Ivan, to add from your week?
Oh, okay. Well, it was the weekend after,
you did your Twitch?
I did the Twitch on Sunday. I went, before we had dinner with Soraya and Russell, we had gone to Logan Arcade. Because we had the beer, the merch, and the records. Electric Jungle did their first pop-up in 7 months out in front of, the arcade. So,
how'd that go?
And Julie was with me, so I was a little less afraid to be, out there, where we were. And, we had the mask. We took all the precautions we needed to take. And of course, Ivan came home with yet more records. But, as you saw in my post on both Facebook and Instagram, but it was an enjoyable experience to see, John and Allison. And then a bunch of the old, crew showed up. I mean, Dijon Holiday and Jim Humstrap, Brian Trent, Wally from, Illuminated Brewery. I mean, we had a few people that came back around and, we all bumped elbows and it was nice, and, we kept our distances, but, it was nice just being around, everybody and seeing everybody again for the first time in months, which that was enjoyable. I mean, I sat on a chair in a corner, away from everything and everybody and just going through the records and, just having a marvelous time. Then we did our meals, then did the Twitch on Sunday, which worked out really well. I guess Twitch's situation is, we don't got the storage power to keep your video. So your video is only going to have a shelf life of maybe a week, if not even a month. Because when I went back there after being away from Twitch that whole month, I went back. None of the videos I made are there anymore. They're all gone. And I also found another note about that too, and the reason why Facebook is, clamping down on the whole live stream thing. It's because Allison kind of elucidated this to me, and that is they have to pay for the storage of all of that material that gets put up on Facebook and that gets put up on
every video, every photo. I mean, that has to go on a server somewhere.
Exactly. So I guess a part of it was just the lone thing of, it's not that they didn't want you to stream, it's because, they have to pay to put all that stuff in the servers and everything to hold on to any of that unless they dumped it out like they do on Twitch, which I think maybe that might be the next thing that might be happening on Facebook. I don't know that for sure, but I guess maybe they're going to put it in a way where it's like, okay, if you videotape this thing on your phone or whatever, drop it down immediately into your own storage because we're not going to store it. We're not going to store pictures and we're not going to store video or audio anymore, which I think they might come out ahead if they did it this way. A lot of people have defected to Mixcloud now, which I don't have the finances to that. I got the SoundCloud, which I'm real happy with actually. And, the Twitch thing, I can still do it, but I also know that, having it stored or rerun, that's not in the cards. So I tell people when I go on Twitch, like for the Mundo 80s thing I did on Sunday, which, the event, the 2-day event for the pop-up was only from 12 to 5. So I matched up the event from 12 to 5, on Sunday, which was really kind of nice because then knocking off at 5, not only was it comfortable, it was nice, and and I felt good about it. So it was cool. And I guess I'll be living a life, in the video situation on Twitch for a little while longer, but I won't be doing the thing on Facebook or Instagram. But also too, on behalf of Cafe Mustache and Ralph, I guess they call it Pantheon. Pantheon.
The what?
The site called Pantheon. Pantheon.
You mean Patreon?
Patreon. Okay, well, they started a new thing that they're doing like the last Thursday of every month, and they're creating content for Patreon now. It's called Thank God It's Stash, and I was approached by Ralph to create some content for that. In fact, they released my mixtape La Isla Musical as part of content to Thank God It's Stash, which has gotten some really nice reviews, which I'm real happy about that. And so I might be making that appearance. I will be making that appearance, every Thursday, one Thursday of the month, doing, programming and, creating content for them, as well as also pending is, whether or not I'm going to get, twitched in for the virtual, Stern Pinball event that's going to happen this year, the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th of October. And so I have yet to find out if I am indeed going to be piped in to play music for the people that are going to be, social distancing and playing the brand new machines that are coming out by Stern Pinball. So that's pending right now amongst things. So yeah, and so other than that, yeah, everything else is groovy. Everything's good. Spending the weekend with Julie, and she left. As we're taping right now, she left several hours ago, and I'll be seeing her next week. Looking forward to her. And
okay.
So everything else has been hunky dory. I'm here with you guys now, and life is good. So, all right, how was your week there, Mike?
Well, yeah, I saw the pandemic special. It was about what you'd expect from South Park. It was good. It's apparently, earlier in the season, Randy Marsh went to China to sell some of his weed and found out about all these other, how Disney is cashing in on China over there. And I guess apparently, according to South Park canon, Randy fucked a bat, and that's what caused COVID to get over here. So,
Oh, good Lord.
So it's that kind of thing, yeah.
Oh my God.
Mickey Mouse sending him death threats saying, "Ha, you're a dead man, ha." all the parks are getting shut down, obviously, so Disney's in trouble, Anyway, so yeah, South Park pandemic special was good. It was about what you expected. Did gaming last weekend. Played the Dice Forge, and that's you have 6-sided dice with little Lego tiles on each 6 side where you can change it and upgrade your dice and roll higher and try and beat the bad guys and try and beat the opponents and all. That was fun. But the fun game that I did notice, I didn't mention on social media, that we played the Oregon Trail card game. And
there's an Oregon Trail card game?
There's a card game for the Oregon Trail, the old floppy disk Oregon Trail, You Have Died of Dysentery card game.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that game.
Yes. That was fun. That's hard. We played it twice. The first time we died quick. So let's try it again. And it's very
difficult. Did you die of dysentery?
I died of cholera once.
Oh, okay.
And I think we ran out of fresh water.
I think one time I died of wolves. But I didn't kill enough wolves or something like that.
But no, I've never played the actual old video game, like the green screen.
Oh, I did.
DOS. I never did.
I did. You had to kill deer and shit. And...
You had to get food, yeah.
Yeah, you had to kill. You had to use the space bar to fire to hit the deer. And... I remember that.
But I played we played the Oregon Trail card game, and we won. We lost. We got our asses handed to us first game, But the second time we won. So we passed the Oregon Trail.
So no dysentery.
No, I did not die of dysentery.
Damn it.
I watched last episode of Lower Decks was actually good. There's making fun of the J.J. Abrams and the lens flares. And, this episode actually had some substance to it. You know, it's all about the Rick and Morty haha sometimes. And it was good for the lulz, and still is good for that. But this one was actually pretty good. It has some substance to the story, so I'm digging it. And I wonder, as the show ends, it's hard to believe this series the season 1's almost done. We're getting close to the season 3 premiere of Discovery, so I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of series, I looked into Stargirl, and now on my cable provider, I got to pay $3 an episode to watch the finale for Stargirl. So I waited too long. I got to try and see if I can find it if it re-airs, maybe somewhere.
I would imagine you could get on I bet you could watch it on the CW for free.
Yeah, maybe. I got to find it somewhere. I got to use my...
I should check. I got CW. I should check to see if it's there.
Yeah, I should see if it's on demand somewhere else. But according to my Xfinity on demand, I got to pay $2.99 per episode. I can't pay $1 an episode to rent an episode, which is dumb. So I waited too long. It's my fault. Totally my fault.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
You could have just DVR'd it.
I could have DVR'd it when I did. I know. I should have DVR'd it, but I didn't.
You know how much shit is on my DVR that I haven't touched yet? I finally watched the Grammys Prince tribute that I taped in January the other day. I finally got around to watching.
Wow.
It was good. It was actually pretty solid. Foo Fighters doing Darling Nikki was interesting.
No, that's cool. I remember when they did their Foo Fighters did they did a huge Beatles tribute. I think Maroon 5 did I saw her standing there, and Foo Fighters did Hey Bulldog, and that was awesome, man. But anyway, what else?
John Legend, by the way, does not do Prince music well.
No.
John Legend tried to do, I can't remember what song he tried to do from Prince, and it really was, it wasn't good. No. No. You stick to your own shit, John. You're good that way. Yeah. Don't do this.
We are 16 days out from DairyCon, and no one got infected at the show, so congrats to all of us for being safe and being sensible. But then, that night, a friend of mine had to leave show early, and he drove back to his home county and attended a party, and he got COVID. So
wow.
So he was quarantined. He was knocked on his ass. He got last I talked to him, he had a headache and congestion. So, but he's getting over it because he's a youngin'. It's our buddy Matt, Ivan.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so, but he's on the mend. And meanwhile, he's an uncle now, and he can't see his nephew yet because he's stuck in quarantine.
Well, this is what happens when you don't wear your mask.
That's right. His brother and his girlfriend had a baby, and so now Uncle Matt can't go see him yet, so... You have to wait. I think he gets out of quarantine next week. And then we'll see about that. What else? Immediately after we recorded last week, I found out that Mariah Carey put out a memoir. So I had some money on my iTunes account, so I read it. I bought the ebook, so I read it on my tablet. And man, she had a shitty childhood, man. Of course, this is her retelling, so I know it's her side of the story, but... And from interviews and articles I've read, because back in the 90s I was quite the Mariah Carey fanboy, and she being biracial in the 70s and the 80s was
sucked.
It did.
Did you ever see when she pops on the TRL with the ice cream thing?
She talked about that, because of.
Oh my God.
And now it's pretty tame by today's standards, but that...
I remember watching that live when it happened. Yeah. I was actually watching, and Carson Daly didn't know what to do.
But the thing is, he didn't, I don't know.
I'm telling you, the look on Carson Daly's face was priceless. He was like, what do I, okay, you're here to do what? I brought ice cream.
Well,
what?
she was here to promote the Glitter movie and just being on this tour junket and the new record deal, and she was overworked and didn't sleep. So, and then you remember
she was very nipply.
And yeah,
she was very nipply that day.
Yeah, that was her thing. I mean, well, her.
Yeah, this was a little bit more nipply than usual.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was just still an interesting read. I learned some stuff I never knew. Like when her first album came out, she wrote a lot of songs with this guy named Ben Margulies, and I didn't know that like before her record deal with Columbia, she signed a contract with this guy, and he got like a huge percentage of royalties from these songs, that even like later albums that he was never part of. Notice he was only on her first album. And so she learned right away about owning her own music, or owning her copyrights, and careful of what she signs.
Well, she was married too to what's his name, right?
Tommy Mottola. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then he was twice her age, and she thought, because even before they got married, he was so controlling of her career. He didn't want her to be in any movie, didn't want her to act, and then pretty much what she said in her book, just wanted to wash the urban off of her. Just wanted to just have her, be in a gown and sing ballads, where she wanted to do like collaboratives with rappers, and like Fantasy, and of course the Old Dirty Bastard from Fantasy. She wanted to do more of that, and the label was kind of frowned. Tommy didn't want any of that because he didn't understand it. It was like her thing, like Prince stood up to her about saying this is her shit. But anyway, she collaborated with a lot of early Kanye West. She collaborated with Nas, did a lot of collaborations, and talked about her breakdown in 2001, and her. She had one little paragraph about that New Year's Eve debacle a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
About how the mics weren't working, and how she said that Luther Vandross told her once, never sing in the cold, because it's bad on the vocal cords.
Right.
But it was still an interesting read, and I learned a lot of interesting stuff. But
you got me feeling emotions.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
What was else? I think that was it. I don't think I have anything else. Yeah, I guess we could talk news now. The whole the movie theater shit. Oh yeah, like.
What about Regal Theater?
Yeah, Regal Cinemas. Like, holy shit.
Well, I guess it's not a permanent closing. I guess it's just we're closing at the moment because we don't see a reason why to be open.
Right, because there's no new content.
All the new content's been moved again.
Right.
Well, not all of it, but most of it, so far.
Yeah, basically they're just like saying, well, what the hell? Why are we going to turn the lights on, burn up lights and, whatever else we need to keep a theater open if we don't have the content to sustain this, and, and I'm sure it's got everybody's, in an uproar. Although I did see something interesting though about, what's that one company that does Phantom Events?
Fathom,
they said that they're trying to save Halloween, and that they're claiming that the first line in their advertising was, "Oh, your matinee or your theater is now open again," and I'm just like, no, it's not. And I guess they lined up some Halloween events, but I don't know where, because they just shut down Logan over here by me again.
Yeah.
They said we'll be back.
Well, I know the AMCs are still open. The AMCs are still open at the moment.
Right.
But I wonder how much longer they're going to be open at this rate. It's
a point where it's like you need a car to get to your job, but without a job you can't buy a car. That's the kind of stage we're at right now, I think, with movies and reopening the theaters.
Right.
I mean, and again, this goes back to, some of this goes back to some of the stuff we've talked about, which is that, the West Coast and the East Coast the big markets on the West and the East Coast aren't necessarily open, and that plays a factor, and they want their numbers. They don't want to just get, like, Tenet came out and it's not doing nearly what it was. I mean, it's doing well for what it is, but it's not doing what it probably could have done. And they don't want to make those types of numbers with what they paid. They want to make the numbers they're used to and accustomed to paying, which is why, James Bond got moved, and now, as of today, Dune's getting moved to next year.
And that's starting to look like Wonder Woman's getting moved too.
Right. Well, so far that hasn't been said, but
that's the thing. I mean, the money's just not there. Not in theatrical release. No, the money's just not there.
Well, it's not that it's not there. It's just that it's, look, there's a lot of variables.
It's inaccessible right now because theaters aren't open, and a lot of things have come into question. And you're right about the East Coast and the West Coast because, all right, we're talking markets again. The East Coast is a huge market. The West Coast is a huge market. Is the Midwest as big as
New York City and LA? Exactly.
It's great that you got Houston. It's great that you got Chicago. But the truth is the number, I don't know what the number, I mean, where's Tenet? I mean, I haven't looked lately. The last week we talked about this. Tenet only had 40 million nationwide. I mean,
right,
that was a movie that should have.
Is that
normally
1 week or cumulative?
I think that's cumulative.
Yes, that's not good.
I mean, but they released it and they felt like they're going to take that hit on this, and I'm sure it'll be fine. They
rolled the dice and
they
rolled the dice and lost.
Whereas, I don't know if they lost yet. There must be a reason why.
They didn't get it. They didn't get as big a bang out of it as they could have got.
Right, but we'll see. I'm curious as to.
But then,
the question becomes:
Are we incorporating the nationwide market? I mean, the worldwide market as well, or is just nationwide?
No. Worldwide, they're doing okay. They're at like 30 million. They're over 30 million.
Oh,
Not 30 million, 300 million. They're over 300 million. That's why it's working out. Is that the rest of the world is like at 300 million. Because a lot of the rest of the world is actually open. So, that's what's making this work is quite frankly, is the rest of the world is kind of pulling up our normal numbers. But yeah, I mean, if you're watching that stuff and, the other thing is, studios are being selfish. Here's what we paid to make these movies. This is what we expect to make. Okay. We're not going to be able to make these numbers. Well, they're not going to just release them anyway. The reaction is, I want to get paid what we want to get paid. Unless we get to a point where
break even. We want to at least break even somehow. And if we get anything past the break even point, everything there is gravy. But right now we're not even breaking even.
I just wonder at some point, here's the thing. The other thing is this, and I'm just going to keep saying this. I mean, maybe it's just me. James Bond, don't get me wrong, I like James Bond. Was anybody really running to go see James Bond?
I might have gone to see it. My sister's a big Daniel Craig fan. I might have gone to see it with her.
But my reaction is might have.
Yeah.
Okay. Dune looks interesting, but okay, there's some sci-fi fans who would have gone to see it, but was anybody really running to go see Dune?
I never saw the original in its entirety.
I saw the original as a kid, and I was dying with it being 3 hours, and I got bored. I've never seen it as a kid.
I've piecemealed Dune. I've never actually sat through an entire.
Oh no, I sat through the entire thing, and that was the reason why. Anytime I've ever seen it on TV, I'm like, I'm changing the channel. I mean, I saw it once. I never wanted to see it again. The only thing I remember is Sting's not wearing his shirt, and there's worms. And and their eyes are blue, and I don't know why. I don't care. And it just, yeah.
You were not impressed by it.
No, well, keep in mind when when it came out around the time when, Star Wars and stuff came out.
And the Star Trek films were in full swing.
Why would see Dune if you got Star Wars, man? Hell with that.
Well, no, the point was there wasn't Star Wars at the moment. This must be like, when you're a kid, it's like, oh, this is like space stuff and Star Wars. It ain't like Star Wars.
That's
this
boring.
Sucks. Boring.
Yeah.
And all the sci-fi geeks who are like 20 or 30 are like, this is amazing.
Yeah, all the hyper geek nerds who read the books. I remember
back in the day,
I had classmates who read the Dune books. I'm like, oh, all right.
Right. I'm sure years later if I had watched it, I would have been a lot happier, but Jeff Stein watching it was like an 8 or 10-year-old kid, or maybe 12. I was
I think it was in junior high when that came out.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
maybe
it was like early 80s. But anyway, it was like, well, it wasn't.
The point being, it wasn't. But the point I'm getting at is, that's not maybe there'd be people who are excited to go see. The truth is, this is gonna sound bad. Even Black Widow. I know you think that people are hyped to see Black Widow. I don't think people are as hyped to see Black Widow as you think they are. I think at this point they're hyped to see a Marvel movie, but I don't know that they care that much about Black Widow, because I didn't feel like it was getting the kind of hype that it should have. Now, on the other hand, and I guess this is my point, has there been a movie yet that anybody has basically said, oh my effing God, I need to see that movie? And quite frankly, I can't speak for other people, but I can speak amongst the three of us. There's only one movie that all three of us have sat there and said, yeah, I might go to the theater for that movie. I probably will go. And that's Wonder Woman.
Right.
That's Wonder Woman. So the question is to me is, the second Wonder Woman movie. So the question to me is, would people be willing, because somebody's going to at some point have to put something out and take the risk. The question is, if nothing else is out, think about this. If nothing else is out, and this is a guaranteed, without question, people are going to come to the theater and watch it, I'll put it out. And in fairness, and you're going to laugh, it could be, in fairness, this in some ways, this might work out really, really well. It could end up being where it's like on 6 screens at the same theater. So that you could basically make the number of people in each room.
It's like a Star Wars weekend, where they had to put like times every 15 minutes.
Well, the scary part is, with the amount of lack of movies at this point, if you've got the AMC around where I'm at, I think it's like, I can't remember, it's been so long I've been there. I want to say there's like 6, there's like 20 theaters in there. Well, okay, if you're really not got anything else to put in, why not put it on 20 screens and see what the hell happens?
Well, at this point, if they're willing to go ahead and throw the dice on a possible blockbuster, which if it reaches that status, rather single screen or multiple screen, it might break the whole taboo, and maybe we'll start getting more content after it.
Well, again, I think that this goes back to something else.
What's that?
This goes back to something else that, I hate to say it, but we've talked about this before, and people have been talking about this for a while, which is, when is Hollywood going to put out really great movies?
Well,
they need to start filming them is what they need to do.
Right. Well, but okay. So we're at a point now where, let's put it where it is, which is, right now going to the movies is kind of like there's a chance that you could die going to the movies. Not a high percentage, but there's a chance.
But the possibility is there.
Right. So am I braving all the bullshit to go see this movie? Am I braving all the bullshit to see the movie?
Nothing to trade off the risk because you want to go see it yet.
Right.
And James Bond is a good enough draw, and Wonder Woman would have been a good enough draw, but...
Well,
no, okay. I don't know about James Bond. James Bond's been hit or miss the last been hit or miss.
Okay, James Bond. James Bond, well, just my opinion on James Bond. I mean, coming from from the old James Bond mold myself, and I haven't really followed much of the newer James Bond movies. I mean, I've heard that they were great, but I've not been a fervent follower of all that is new James Bond. And I guess you guys have seen more of the newer Bond movies than I have. And how do you feel about it?
I liked Skyfall, and I didn't like Quantum of Solace, and I think that's universally been disregarded by a lot of even the hardcore Bond fans. I mean, like Casino Royale was good, and Skyfall was good.
I thought Casino Royale was boring as hell.
What? I liked it.
I didn't like it at all.
Okay.
I didn't like it at all. I thought it was, and I gotta be honest, and this goes back to part of, this goes back to the core of what James Bond has sort of become, which is there's a lot of people who, for James Bond, Daniel Craig reminds them of Sean Connery.
Right.
And to me, well, though, see, the thing is, I don't think he reminds me of Roger Moore at all.
Well, but
I don't think he reminds me of Roger Moore at all. And he reminds me a lot of the Sean Connery. Well, I didn't grow. There's an entire generation of kids who didn't grow up on Sean Connery. We grew up on Roger Moore, and that's kind of why Pierce Brosnan was popular. Was Pierce Brosnan was a lot more like a Roger Moore than he was Sean Connery. So you have like two different. Because I've had this debate with people who are like, "How do you like that? Like this one or that one?" It's like, well, I grew up on Roger Moore.
He's his own.
I didn't
Bond.
grow up on Sean. Right? Who?
Well, you had the two different
Daniel Craig.
Yeah, but he's not really his own Bond. I mean, he fits more into the mold of a Sean Connery Bond than he does his own.
And I think that's what everybody goes by. Either we want to make it more like a Sean Connery Bond or like a Roger Moore Bond, but are there any real standalone Bonds that kind of break out of that whole formula within the series?
Because Timothy Dalton didn't break out either. Timothy Dalton was just there.
But from what I'm told is that he was the best representation of Ian Fleming's portrayal of Bond in the books. So what's your favorite Bond movie, Jeff?
My favorite Bond movie? That's a good question.
I like Eyes Only.
I guess Octopussy would probably be.
Octopussy's a great movie. Yeah.
Octopussy would be up there. And it's funny, the last, I liked Bronson's last movie. I can't remember the name of it though.
Is that Die Another Day?
Die Another Day. I really liked Die Another Day.
Let's see. I liked Live and Let Die. That was one of my favorites. Octopussy. And of course, For Your Eyes Only, I like that of the newer Bond
Sheena
movies.
Easton, yeah.
And what else? Then, of course, of the older Bond movies, Dr. No, that's the first.
I just think it's hysterical that you think that For Your Eyes Only is considered one of the newer movies.
No, that's
for me, because
80s,
I haven't really followed much in the newer Bond movies. Pretty much after that, I've pretty much not have gone and watched any of the really new Bond movies. That's probably the newest Bond movie I've ever watched.
View to a Kill was good too. In fairness, I liked View to a Kill.
Yeah, that was good.
Although they misused Christopher Walken in that movie badly.
Wow. Hey, Mr. Bond, how you doing? I suppose I have to kill you now.
Up.
Okay, sorry.
He should have been. That should have been such a better.
Yeah, I liked Goldfinger. Goldfinger was probably, but for me that was a big movie too. Goldfinger, and of course,
and
go ahead.
I was going to say, as much as everybody pans it, I was a kid at the time. Yes, I liked Moonraker.
Oh, get out of here.
I was a kid. It was very Star Warsy.
Well, Moonraker was trying to trying to build upon that whole story.
How can you go wrong with Holly Goodhead?
I'm some shit. Oh no, that was Roger Moore.
That was Roger Moore still.
Yeah, Boonraker. Yeah, it was Roger Moore. Man with the Golden Gun. I liked that one.
That was a good one.
The Spy Who Loved Me. I like that one too.
Spy Who Loved Me.
But I did like Skyfall too.
I like Skyfall. I thought Skyfall was good.
I didn't see it.
Skyfall was good. I liked a lot of the GoldenEye was okay. It wasn't great. World Is Not Enough was all right.
So you're saying for a guy like me, if I'm going to go see any new Bond movies, go see the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies. So.
That's my opinion, but Mike likes a lot more of the Daniel Craig stuff. I can tell.
The 2 out of the 3 he's done, I like those.
Well, I'm gonna have to get caught up then, because this is interesting that you guys, first off, I didn't think even James Bond was, as much of a viable thing as it used to be when I was watching James Bond. I mean, I thought
when they had Bronson, they were doing good numbers again.
Okay,
they were doing real, because when they brought in Timothy Dalton, the numbers, after Roger Moore, the numbers kind of went down, and then they brought Pierce Brosnan in, and the numbers shot back up.
So it kind of resurrected the franchise now.
A little bit, yeah. And it's funny because they kind of went away from...
more of the Remington Steele on-screen charisma that Dalton didn't have.
I see.
And in some ways, he has that more than Daniel Craig does, too. I think that's the other thing why I kind of look at Daniel Craig and I'm like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, for example, with Casino Royale, it's like, okay, I understand you're doing this in Vegas, but I'm kind of like...
Yeah,
at the time,
he's tortured by Jyn Erso's dad.
Well, no, I was going to go more towards, it's like, okay, you decide that you're going to play, what is it? What's the card game they play? Baccarat?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's like, and you're going to play Baccarat at the height of a time when poker was such
Which movie was that? I think the Sean Connery Bond where he plays the video game about the world domination.
Oh yeah, the one where they brought in Sean Connery for like one Bond movie. Was it Never Say Never?
I don't know. Never Say Never.
I think you're right, though.
Could we play one last game for the rest of the world? Win or lose?
And that was weird. That was always weird, too, because it was like they had just done movies with Roger Moore, so it was like, who the fuck's this? My grandfather had to explain to me, it was like, no, this is my James Bond. I'm like, oh. Well, he's awfully old. What happened to the pretty boy looking guy?
Oh, James.
and of course the endless Bond girl bevies. Yep.
Ivan, favorite Bond girl.
Favorite Bond girl? Oh my gosh, that's a loaded question, man. That's hard to say. Okay, let me ask you, what's your favorite Bond girl?
Let's see. Let me look at the list.
Yeah, see, the problem is I got to remember all the different ones. And the only ones I keep coming up with are the ones that are more recent.
Jane Seymour was in Live and Let Die. She was a Bond girl.
Okay.
Oh, Barbara Bach in The Spy Who Loved Me. Oh, yeah.
Okay, Barbara Bach, yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't Barbara Bach married to Ringo Starr for a while?
Oh, yeah.
Did they do a really crummy caveman movie years and years and years ago?
Yeah, it's called Caveman.
Yes, it was. It's funny you say that.
Awful.
Wasn't Tanya Roberts in that? And she was in View to a Kill, right? Tanya Roberts?
Roberts was View to a Kill. Yeah. That's right.
It was View to a Kill.
Roberts, wasn't she one of the last Charlie's Angels too? Tanya Roberts?
Maybe.
I think she was.
Denise Richards in The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, right. Well, and Halle Berry looked really good in God, why am I forgetting?
Die Another Day.
Die Another Day.
Oh,
Halle Berry was like, wow.
Halle Berry, okay.
I mean, it was funny because they were talking about spinning that character off into its own set of movies, but it never happened.
Sad.
And it probably would have been, it might have been okay, because I thought I can't remember who the blonde was in that movie who was pretty hot too. That was in there. That's the other thing, Ivan.
What's that?
The Bond girls in later movies start to do interesting things.
Yeah, they're no longer just the damsel in distress or whatever.
Right. There are a couple where
they do have some badass
being,
moments.
Yeah, and there's some of them that turn out being the bad guy.
Right.
And you're like,
she's the villain,
wow,
right? Okay.
Yeah, she's
exactly
the villain.
like when Casino Royale, when she betrays him, and of course, Betty still has feelings for her, but
I gotta be honest. As much as it sounds crazy, and I know we've talked, sometimes we've had our ups and downs on it. I would not be against the concept of a Jane Bond movie. I would not be against it.
I wouldn't be against anything like that at all. I think it would make a really welcomed
I remember
addition.
the fabricated controversy over maybe Idris Elba taking over as James Bond, and everyone was all like,
right.
How,
And I think he would have been a great James Bond.
Yeah, I think
well,
it'd be
didn't
great.
you hear, wasn't there something recently where Henry Cavill's been talked about for James Bond?
I don't know.
I saw something recently about where...
Did you see that Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie?
No.
With him in it? I heard it was good.
No.
I used to watch the series when I was young. I used to like the series.
Well, that's the other interesting thing is obviously, you're gonna want, look, let's be honest. There's very few things that the British a lot of things the British will back down on. Who James Bond is ain't one of them. They get upset about that.
We've got the Beatles and we've got Elton John. We got James Bond. Don't mess with any of those.
Yeah, don't mess with our and the Spice Girls. Don't mess with our shit.
Don't mess with the Spice Girls.
You Americans can have the rest. We're keeping this.
Yeah, don't mess with our shit. We got the Queen.
We got our standards. We were going to stand by them.
Yeah, and don't fuck with Harry Potter. That's ours too.
There we go.
Well, a lot of Harry Potter fans are disowning it because of J.K. Rowling's stances, but
J.K.
I think it'd be. Oh, you haven't heard about this?
You don't know about J.K. Oh, yeah. Well, Ivan's not hip to the jive. Maybe J.K. Rowling has made some anti-transgender remarks on her Twitter account.
Okay.
And it's upset a lot of fans. So obviously. So.
Oh, here, let me fill you in on her. You know what her publishing life was like before she happened upon Harry Potter. Are you familiar?
No.
Just a 5-minute circle here for you. Well, she used
5 minutes. Go.
Okay, she used to make erotic fairy tales before she got picked up on the whole Harry Potter thing. In fact, there was a number of erotic books that she had made. One going about the savage situations that was Sleeping Beauty. There was another one about Snow White. And basically what she did was she kind of took the grim fairy tales and made them really grim, and just really expounded on much subject matter that you would sit there and think, oh my God, really? And so she did have that life before Harry Potter. It's just another case in point of before they became stars. There you go. You've heard the stories of, Sylvester Stallone. He was the Italian Stallion. He did X-rated movies. That's how he was able to get the money for the Lords of Flatbush, and yeah, well, that was her thing,
Well, you're a struggling artist. You had to make your bones somewhere.
Yeah, so she was an erotic book artist.
And she was making bones by doing it, I guess.
And some of the stuff that I guess now you're telling me, have been long withstanding because given the fact that I have read some of those books inadvertently because I had a friend of mine who collected the books and had left them over one day and I decided to dive into them. I mean, engaging as they were, perverted times 100 and it's just like, oh my gosh, who reads this filth? And you just say, yeah, well, I did, but it was just out of curiosity.
And you only wanted, it was just for the articles.
Right, got it.
Moreover,
it was for research.
Curiosity, moreover. No, honestly. It was just curiosity because it's just like, you read one page and then you get to the next page and then you start reading on, you're just like, oh my goodness. Wow. So she didn't get,
what was it, like bestiality or some shit? Or was
Well, yeah, I mean, it was all kinds of shit. I mean, here it is, the prince doesn't kiss Sleeping Beauty when he gets there. He forcibly rapes her and everything while she's still sleeping, and all this other shit. Okay. And it's just like, wow, how did they get away with printing this crap? But yeah, I guess all of that made her the bones to go ahead and produce this whole series of other things with Harry Potter, but yeah, it just kind of gives you an idea that some things come out from a sordid background and that...
Well, when you're a writer, when you're an artist, I mean, sex sells, and you look at all the artists from DeviantArt and Tumblr, and they know what makes them money, and you know what? Right. People like sex. Yeah.
Look at how many, let's be honest, how many, we've all heard about, or seen like the Family Guy, like the Family Guy cartoon porn stuff and
the parodies,
and the Simpsons and the
parodies and American
and all the stuff with like the Disney princesses and all that stuff. That stuff's existed for a little while now.
Well, yeah,
there's
it's been
some crazy stuff.
Well, yeah, just like, we had this conversation about Erin Esurance. Remember the Esurance, the commercials, the famous Esurance?
Yeah, how they had to drop her because Rule 34.
Rule 34, man, it was splattered all over the pages of Pornhub and all matter of artists' pages. And you're just like, dang. Yep. But you got some people now that, with a sense of taste, I guess you could put it, that still work that sexual angle in their art and everything, but are able to make it palatable. Is that a good word? To be able to just like, it's sexy, it's racy, it's erotic, but it's not in your face where you're just kind of like looking away from it, and
it's risque, but it's not obscene.
Right.
Do we have any other news stories, Jeff?
We do have a couple things. Like, for example, I guess Guillermo del Toro's script for Justice League Dark, which is now going to become a HBO Max thing, but his script that they were looking at got leaked onto the internet, and someone has bought a copy.
Whoops! And
it's out there. So. Whoa. Well, no, obviously this is not a script that they're using.
Yeah.
Because now they're going in a different direction.
This was a pitched script, yeah.
Right. Well, no, I think it was beyond this. This was, they were in the, they were in the process of going this direction, and then they decided instead to go to HBO Max with it. So. Okay.
But any juicy details out of it?
I was just kind of looking at it now. I hadn't fully looked at it. Just basically, it looks like a lot of it would have been based around. It looks like it was some of the characters were Zatanna, the dead man, John Constantine.
Yep, Constantine.
And it looked like I guess they were going to talk a little bit about the multiverse in it somewhere along the way. But yeah, it looks interesting. It looks like it might have been interesting. It looks like Del Toro had an interesting idea. I guess the other interesting news is this week is, so it looks like Jamie Foxx is going to be back playing Electro in Spider-Man.
Okay.
And
he didn't do a bad job. The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man was fine.
He wasn't very. Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Well, what didn't you like about Electro in this one? Just the costume or what?
The whole. I just didn't. I can't remember all of it. I just remember it being bad. And sitting there going, Jamie Foxx.
Was that Ivan?
You didn't like the whole aesthetic of the character, or just the?
I can't remember.
Well, I know Andrew Garfield didn't gel with me because we're still reeling from Tobey Maguire stepping down. But
that didn't bother me as much. I just wasn't. I don't remember that Electro really made me. I don't remember.
I don't remember being an awesome villain. I mean, just remember like from the '60s cartoon where he just has like the yellow lightning bolt face mask, which is kind of dopey.
Well, and obviously they went away from that too, and they kind of went a different direction with it.
Right.
But they're talking about bringing him back to play Electro and for the MCU Spider-Man #3, and the other question is, will it be the Electro that we saw that fought Andrew Garfield, or is this entirely?
I'm sure it's going to be a different. It could be the same character, but
maybe not. Maybe they're trying to develop their multiverse type thing.
Yeah, and this is Sony, so they do what I want. Do what I want, bitches.
Right. So who knows what their plan is with that? I mean, we don't know. What? By the way, wasn't that Morpheus movie supposed to come out about now?
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. Yeah, and that obviously got canceled.
Right. That's not happening either.
Not filming.
So
they're still.
They named they found their Miss Marvel. I guess I can't remember if it's for a movie or if it's for.
It'll be for the series, I think, for Disney Plus.
Is it for a series? Is it Disney Plus? Okay. So there's that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you, Mike, about was, and we kind of talked off air about this, but apparently Hasbro is working with somebody called Renegade Games, and they're going to create. I mean, part of the news was more about the Power Rangers, and apparently that they're doing some sort of collectible game, and they're doing an RPG. But what I thought was more interesting was they're being tasked to create, compatible to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, they're being tasked to create not just Power Rangers, but G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, and the part that's interesting to me to ask you about is Transformers. So we're talking about a pencil, paper and pencil dice game,
right?
Of Transformers. That would be a possibility. That's something that's
like an actual RPG, right?
Right. And I don't know that I've ever seen a Transformers RPG. Ever.
Not officially, no. We've had like card games and a lot of video games, obviously. But I remember
cards out
as a fan when the internet was so young, so new, we had IRC chats where people LARPed, which is live action role play for those who don't know. People who LARPed at BotCons. I remember we used to go to, we're going to go LARPing later on. I'm like, okay, we're going to dinner and then we're going to get drunk. But yeah, I know they're back in, like I said, in the early days of the 90s when, I think someone had tried to make their own kind of role-playing game, but it was all homebrew. It was, their own system. I'm not surprised at this because Dungeons & Dragons is owned by Hasbro, and with the springboard popularity of Dungeons & Dragons now, it's more mainstream. You've got like actors like playing out roles on YouTube or in videos on the internet of actors and voice actors doing D&D. I'm not surprised at this. That maybe it could catch on, but of course this is the generation with Power Rangers being young kids of the 90s and now they're adults and they're reliving that nostalgia maybe with their kids. Same thing with Transformers and MLP.
Well, look, I mean, one of the things that's been talked about for a while is, Hasbro's talked about creating their own shared universe, and the talk has always been about, G.I. Joe and Transformers and Micronauts and ROM And
yeah, they tried to do that
now,
with IDW, and they tried to do that with the movies, where they tried to make their own MCU pretty much with all the Hasbro properties.
Right. Well, I think they're still trying to do that. I think they're still looking to try to go that direction. And I know, obviously, I think now they own the rights for Power Rangers too, which they were talking about throwing that in.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I bring any of this up is it would be interesting from a perspective of if some of these games are all using 5th edition and if they can all hook in together. You could mix and match.
Sword and sorcery mixed with 80s
well, not only that,
alien robots.
Which is okay. I can run a G.I. Joe campaign where they're fighting Decepticons. Or I have the Mighty Morph, or you have to fight Rita Repulsa, and you're playing Autobots.
Right.
You know, or to take it a step further, if you're being the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, maybe you're fighting dragons from Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know. I'm curious how, if that possibility of adaptability.
It would be interesting for the crossover.
Would be possible. And again, because they're using 5th edition as a base gaming system, if that is possible, that would be interesting. But again, it assumes that there's enough crossover and enough crossoverability on that.
Yeah, because there are share of like board games and card games. We just had like a 4-year run on the Transformers collectible card game, and that just finally got done out of print now. Which, you know, I had a couple of friends who played it, but I never played it because I didn't want to fall into that collectible card game rabbit hole where you spend like $200 on cards and you play like 3 times a year because you get, you know, whatever, the one guy who buys the card online for $200, he plays it, he wins. But I'm interested.
You know, the more and more I think about this though, Mike, here's the interesting question. Why is it, given how Transformer movies have looked under Michael Bay, and I'm not saying that's the future, but why not G.I. Joe versus Transformers movie?
Yeah, there have been crossovers in the comics, and with them being, even since the old Marvel days in the 80s, there have been crossovers. Mm-hmm. But I don't see why not. Yeah, sure. I mean, if it helps build the franchise.
Josh Duhamel,
I think it would be
Josh Duhamel,
yeah.
You know, and Tyrese, okay, those guys could be, I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah, the Sector 7 guys or the Army guys or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those guys could have been G.I. Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. All for it. People can play the games and enjoy and find another aspect of the fandom that they can share and relate to.
Well, Mike, if that happens, we might have to play some on the show. I might have to sit there and go, okay, Mike, let's see if we can make some characters.
I know D&D. I would
love to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would love to
Mike to
make a character.
Get Mike to make his own Transformer. You don't get to play like Optimus Prime.
Nobody gets unless you get to be Huffer, the grumpy guy Gears. Yeah, he's a grump.
Wow, as long as you're not Fluffer.
I'd support it. I'd see what it's about. I don't know if I'd want to means having to buy like the D&D 5th edition player's manual if they use it as an expansion for people who already have to
I would guess
have to learn the game mechanic of 5th edition.
I would guess it would be its own DMG where it would have 5th edition in it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the D&D purists might not want any crossovers. I mean, like, they just want to just dwell in those worlds. Like I said, the one that makes the most sense would be a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover. Not so much with, like, Power Rangers or D&D.
It depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Some players get tired of running the same crap.
The same sword and sorcery.
Yeah. You know, like there's always been that.
And there's
stuff
the
where,
D&D fans who like to go more into the steampunk.
Right. Well, or like for example, like this weekend, like for example, I don't play a traditional Dungeons and Dragons. I don't even play 5th Ed. I'm still playing from the 90s. I'm still playing West End Games D6 Star Wars, which is an entirely different system entirely.
It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether.
Right. But it's still role playing and but it's Star Wars. And, I mean, but yeah, some of these people, I hate to say it, they're very system oriented. And the thing is that that's the one thing about gaming with, RPGs is that, sometimes it's about are people willing to learn another system, or is it as simple enough as
you've had this one system for so long they don't want to have to scrap it for another,
Would you think that, there would be room for like a universal system that all games could be under?
No, because they want to make their own system so they can buy their own books and bags and cards and manuals and such.
Well, so here's to Ivan's point though. So here's what kind of started to happen under Hasbro when Hasbro took over Dungeons and Dragons, which is they didn't come out with the huge monstrous amounts of books, even when they brought out 3rd edition. Okay? They brought out a few books, and then basically what they did was if you were interested in creating your own books, they allowed you to buy licensing for D20, for the D20 role-playing system. And there were a lot of game systems where the reaction was, hey, you know what? We're gonna buy the license. And I was shocked how many went along with it. Where a lot of them basically went along with, yeah, rather than having to make our own system, we're just gonna use the D20 system and we're gonna pay them the licensing fee. Because the thought process was to do what Ivan just said, which is we'll make it really simple and universal so people will want to come and buy the books and play our games because everybody's playing D20, so everybody knows the same system. Because once upon a time, it's exactly what Mike talked about, which is most of the games were, do you know this system? Do you know that system? Do you know this system? Do you know that system?
But would you think that there'd be more of an appeal to have a uniformity amongst all the games if there was one system that everybody could follow, that everybody could enjoy it, no matter what game it is, they just follow that particular system, and then it's just, okay, you came from this game, but now we're going to play this game, but we're still using the same format.
Right.
And therefore,
so
the interconnectability of all of the stories.
So to answer your question, it really depends on when you came into gaming. Is the answer to that question, which is, if you came in at the time when they revamped things and they were doing more of this kind of thing, yeah, it was really simple and you got to learn all this stuff. But there were a lot of people who didn't go that route. And for some people, they liked the idea of, okay, you play this game, it's an entirely different system, it's an entirely different type of game because it's very different and it's not the same, so that makes it its own unique animal. I'll give you an example. Like when I play West End Games, which is technically kind of defunct. The Star Wars game that they came up with, I still think is the best Star Wars game of any of the RPGs that's ever been done. Okay? And the reason I do is because it's really, really simple. And when I say it's really, really simple, you only need 6-siders. That's it. Wow. So the truth is, if you have a Monopoly set or a Risk set at home, you can probably play the game. You don't have to go run out and fight a whole bunch of dice. The other thing is that it's a really simple game system on how to do that stuff, and it's really kind of easy to do. They have templates to start up character creation. It doesn't take much. It's a more cinematic type style game. There are certain things that they do with their game system that's a little bit different. Uh-huh. And trust me, at one point because keep in mind, at one point, Lucas was in with Hasbro, so, they let them do a new Star Wars game under D20. It did not go well. And one of the reasons it didn't go well was because it felt more like D&D than it felt like Star Wars.
So was it too simplistic for its own good? Is that what you're telling me?
No, it just wasn't compatible. It just didn't feel like Star Wars.
It felt, if you were a Dungeons and Dragons player that was playing 3rd edition or 3.5 at the time, then you were very, very happy with it. Okay? You were very, very happy with it. But if you had played Star Wars before, like the D6 game, like I played, I didn't enjoy it at all because I felt it was restrictive, and I felt like there were things I used to be able to do that I couldn't do, and it seemed like it lost kind of the flavor because of the way that the game system was of D20, or at least what they wrote in or how they made it. Or like, for example, in the game system that I'm used to playing, which is D6 Star Wars, they have what are called force points. And so what happens is let's say I'm shooting my blaster. And let's say my blaster is 5D. Okay?
Yeah.
If I spend a force point for the round, I double all my dice. So now I fire at 10.
Okay.
Well, that's a pretty cool feature to have. And it's pretty cool because it's kind of heroic to have it when you can use something like that. Whereas in the D20 version that Hasbro created, a force point was just like, I can't remember if it was roll a D4 or roll a D6 additional.
Okay.
Versus, so you were not even doubling it. You're basically just adding this and rolling your D20.
Okay.
That's not.
Okay. Well, like a battery or something, or?
What do you mean?
Like it was just stored points like a battery until you wanted to use it?
No, it was, okay.
You just roll the dice and that's how many force points. Yeah.
Well, no, it's not. No, I mean, as in you have your one force point, but rather than it doubling everything you did, it was, okay, here, roll this D4.
Oh, okay.
Or here, roll this D6. That's it.
So it was just a singular toss of the die.
So,
right. Well,
it wasn't received among the fans.
Well, again, it depends on who you were as fans.
Right.
But yeah, it did not sell as well as I think people thought it would sell. Fantasy Flight now has a system, and it's somewhat popular. I'm not a fan of it, and the reason I'm not a fan of it is because, and this has been something that's been more popularized in more recent years, and I'm kind of glad 5th edition doesn't do it, but there are a lot of games now that have popularized the idea of, we're going to make our own custom dice.
Oh, okay.
And the symbols on each die equal something.
Oh, it's not just a numbers system.
It's fixed to that game. You have to use the dice.
Right. It's like the bunny rabbit dice from Hero Quest, right?
Something like that. Well, yeah, something similar to that. But the point being is, you can't play the game without those dice.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take a wild guess. You can take a wild guess that they do not come with when you buy the book.
Right. You got to buy the base set or whatever.
Well, I don't even think there is a base set. I think it's, okay, I got to buy the book, and now I got to go buy these dice. And keep in mind, if you're playing with friends, you're really not buying one set of dice.
Nope, and you don't want to have to pass dice along to everybody every time.
Right, and then lose your dice, rolls. And then
it's your own individual die.
I've played enough of that where it's like, that's a pain in the ass where everyone has to share the dice.
Yeah.
Right, but as it is, like, for example, obviously I belong to a group, so some of the people have bought multiple sets of dice, so they have them. Right. But, like, I always laugh because it's like, I'll play it every so often, and it's alright. But my problem is I'll roll stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what I just rolled. I don't know what this is.
The familiarity of the die, I got it.
Right, I don't know what these dice mean. I have no clue. They don't have numbers. I don't understand.
What's the symbol mean?
Right, exactly. It's like, what does that mean? And like, I know a couple symbols were like, oh, that's bad. I know that's bad. That's not good, and that's not good. But I don't know what they do or how this all works.
But they're just not good.
Right. Like, there's some things where you're like, oh, that's bad. Like, at least there's colors where it's like, you're kind of like, okay, those colors are good, those colors are bad.
Right.
So, at least there's that where you're like, oh, yeah, this is not going to be a good roll.
Yeah. Well, good on Hasbro. Hope it works for them. And also, it's on their Hasbro Pulse Kickstarter, is that their Hero Quest game system has been fully funded. So that's, I think, another month to go. And out of 1 million, they've already got 1.8 million already pledged. So that's just, the base system is $100.
Why do they need a kick system? Why do they need a Kickstarter?
I know. It's just, well,
that doesn't make any sense. Why do they need a Kickstarter? I mean, you're Hasbro. What do you need a Kickstarter for?
And now with aside from Lego,
I guess
large.
maybe that's. I'm sorry. Maybe that's just a sign of the times. That as far as like trying to finance.
Well, they want to be sure that system that they don't lose money on in the proposition of all the molding and all the.
Wow.
The thing is, with a board game though, it's a lot of paper. It's not a huge investment,
right?
To make a board game with books and all that. But,
well, I mean, it's not the same investment like if you're going into electronics
or like the $600 Unicron or the $350 Mandalorian ship that's coming next year.
Right. So because that's a big amount of machining.
Yeah.
To make those.
Yeah, but for a board game, it's different. Of course, it was only $100, not like $600. So they got funded. So there was enough interest.
In fairness, it depends on the type of board game. Like, look, with some board games, like I'm just using this as an example. When you got something like Axis and Allies, they got 1 million fucking pieces.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 1 million of those pieces. Risk is kind of, I mean, like, for example, at least with Risk, the good thing is with Risk is like all those pieces are kind of just about the same freaking piece. Okay. Whereas like with Axis and Allies, it's like, here's a bunch of tanks. Here's here's a guy,
troopers,
here's a couple different types of flying
planes and factories and
Yeah, you gotta put all that shit out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there's a lot
of build up for a game,
Well, it's a lot of different pieces, that's all. Because it's intricate.
Yeah, that reminds me. Ivan was there that day. Where we played
the Axis and Allies. Yeah, we talked about that.
Oh, I saw that. Right. I mean, you guys took up like 2 tables.
Yeah, I remember. And
no, there was a time that we played where you played with us, and
you went off on the one guy. Yeah,
you went off on the one guy because he kept setting up in such a way where I kept beating him in one turn, and you're like, I'm not setting up this game again.
Yeah. That's right, I did.
It's like I got Risk here, but my friend. I got a friend who won't play it because he doesn't like competitive gaming.
I get it. I really kind of do. I've gotten to that point where once upon a time I really enjoyed competitive gaming, and then how do I put this? I met gamers.
Yeah, exactly.
Like hardcore gamers, where it stopped being.
They don't take their losses easy.
It's not even that they don't take their losses easy. It's just like, okay, this stopped being fun 4 hours ago.
Right. Then there's like, that's not the rule book, page 47. Yeah. This statement is incorrect.
When they start citing the rule book,
exactly. When they whip out the rule book on you, like, get the fuck out of here.
And that's part,
just a fucking game. I just want to have fun. Excuse me?
Well, and that's where... Like, I used to love some of those really, really complex games. I used to play Axis and Allies all the time. I used to play Risk all the time. When it was fun, when everybody wanted to beat the crap out of each other, and it was a good time. Okay?
Well, because it was all in good fun.
Right.
Right.
No, there were a couple times where it got
heated.
There was one time we played a game.
Sportsmanship,
there was this one time where...
Tell us, Jeff.
Well, there was this one time where we were playing Axis and Allies, and it was really clear that me and this friend of mine were going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the next 2 to 3 hours, we're just like sitting at the table being like, will you just fucking get it done?
Exactly.
And they can't figure out how to do it, and they're screwing around, and they're taking forever, and we're just like...
We're in a corner.
I mean...
You've got us in a corner.
Right. It's like, what we should have sat there and said is, okay, the game's over. But it's like, okay, all you gotta do is finish us off. Well, they couldn't seem to figure out how to finish us off. And it went from 2 o'clock in the morning to, it's 5 a.m. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I don't give a shit anymore. Just please do what you need to do. Yep. And they're still, like, at 5 a.m., finally, the two of us, basically, because we're playing the Axis, and we're finally like, this is the last turn. You guys can't figure it out. Too fucking bad. We're done. Fine. We'll attack you. We don't even have enough stuff to attack you, but we'll attack you. We're like, well, we don't understand why you're at, because you guys are screwing around.
Right.
Like, swear to God, it's like, okay, you need to attack us. Oh, I'm going to buy like 20 submarines. Can't put people on submarines.
Yeah, you can't send troops across the ocean on a submarine. You need a...
Right, what are you doing?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you buying, like, you just bought 10 submarines. Why aren't you buy 10 transports?
Why are you buying submarines?
Why are you buying submarines?
Because
like,
why are you buying submarines? I think that's this week's title.
Well, yeah. I swear, no, this might be it, because one of the things at the end, this was like the last straw, was one of the people who was playing America was like, I'm buying like 10 battleships, and I'm gonna like move them around all over the Pacific, because there's those little guys on the islands that I don't want them to be there for the next 40 years, even after the game's over. Thinking that the war's still going on. And I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him. But yeah, those games are, that's where, I mean, it's good stories now, but at the time it's like,
it was frustrating.
The worst part is, but at least those are people you're friends with, and you can tell those stories later, you laugh. Yeah. You go to gaming conventions, oh my god, it's like 20 times worse. Well, no, they're all there to win. They're all really competitive.
Yeah.
And they really all know, like, the little loophole rules and everything. And I'm like, the smartest thing I ever did was never play, like, I think the only time I played a competitive board game at Gen Con was Monopoly. And ironically, I won my board. But I never played, like, competitive diplomacy, or I never played competitive Axis and Allies, or anything like that at Gen Con, because I was just like, I don't want to deal with these people. I mean, like, at one point I told you, I was club president, and I'll never forget the one time there was an entire table. I'm not even supposed to be dealing with this, but nobody else was, and I'm the club president. And there's a whole table of Monopoly guys who are about ready to kick the crap out of each other. And I walked over, and I'm like, what's going on? And they explained it to me. I can't remember all the details. All I know is, I'm like, I looked at them and I'm like, just fucking play the game. And they're like, well, this is the game. I'm like, no, you guys are bastardizing this. This is that is that. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. You know, and by the way, it wasn't like we were giving out money. It was just like we were giving out like a trophy.
It was, it wasn't for cash prizes. Or
Hunk of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Hunk of plastic. It's like, oh my god.
Plastic and paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's why I hate to say it. It's like there's a part of me where I'm like, I understand where your friend's coming from. Like, I would rather play Risk on a computer than play Risk in person.
Against people.
Or play, well,
people.
Although coming from an old-fashioned board gaming background like myself, I mean, I enjoy a good game of Monopoly. I enjoy a good game. I enjoy a good card.
Different.
I know it's different.
I'll play, but okay. Let me try this. I'll play games like Monopoly. I'll play games like Life. I'll play games like Sorry. I might even play Risk. Okay.
Right.
But at a certain point, when you're talking about things like Age of Renaissance and Advanced Civilization and you're talking about like Axis and Allies, or even like Castle Risk and stuff like that.
When things get more intricate and the rules get a little more complicated.
Yeah,
I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn new games, and I'm willing because I do. I mean, I've always been intrigued about the whole gaming universe. But see, me being who I am, it's a little harder to show me because it takes me a little long enough to understand certain aspect. But but it's not that.
Well,
I mean, because I would love to do an RPG. I mean, I was in that universe, but only for a scant time. I had a friend of mine.
RPGs. I'll be honest. RPGs to me, that's one of the reasons why I like RPGs better. RPGs. Okay, I may not know the game system, but I understand how to role play. Okay, so that's a universal thing. Versus with board games, you kind of need to know how to play the game. If you don't know how to play the game,
game turn sequences that don't apply to RPGs.
Right. Well, the other thing is.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Sorry.
Well, the other thing. No, that's fine. The other thing is, and Mike could attest to this. There's the one person who has the rules or has read the rules.
And will quote the rules when needed.
Right.
When they feel they need to.
Or they've interpreted the rules, and then later you look at the rule book and you're like, that's not the rule. That's not even what that says. Where'd you come up with that shit?
Okay, well, have you ever had to confront the whole subject of house rule in any of your gaming experiences?
I know there are several house rules for Monopoly.
Yeah.
Not just the free parking where you get the pot,
No, I told you guys about the Taco Bell rule.
Taco Bell rule?
Yeah. The last show we talked about the Taco Bell rule.
Yeah, the Taco Bell rule where everybody went to Taco Bell before we played Monopoly, and if you could prove that somebody farted, you had to put in whatever you had into the free parking. At minimum. At maximum 500, at minimum, whatever you had.
Yeah, you explained it in the other show, Mike.
Okay.
Right, no, that's the only, I mean, I know what you're talking about. There are some house rules for Monopoly.
I used to use the one house rule in Monopoly where, how they say, income tax where it says put in 200 or 50% of your.
50 or $75 or 15% or something like that.
Right. So what I used to do with that was I used to put the money that went into the income tax into free parking as kind of an additional to that whole situation.
Right. And when you land on free parking, you get the pot, and then you get to buy all the houses and hotels you want, and then you win.
Well, there you go. I mean, unless you're really smart.
It should go back to the bank,
Well, yeah. But at the same time, that was one of those things where, it was more fun that way. It was just like, we even had one of our rules was, if you didn't get out of jail within 3 turns, you pay $20 to the pot.
You pay $50. That's the rule. When you can't roll doubles in 3 turns, you got to pay $50.
Right. Well, we used to do it if you got past 3 turns, if you went 3 turns around and you still weren't out of jail and everything like that, you pay your bail. And then,
Man, there were games where I swear to you, there were games where I was at a point in the game where it was the best thing that could happen to me is if I'm in jail.
Sit in jail because people got monopolies and you're not landing on them and they're just sitting there.
Or I have money and I can put money towards my monopolies, but I have to worry about getting around the board.
Right.
And you're if I'm stuck in jail for 3 turns, I can put up all the shit and not have to worry.
Right.
Did you do the combination move of buying 4 houses before you got the hotels, or did you go straight to hotels?
No, you got to buy the 4 houses and then you get the hotel.
Right. Well, and the other thing is too, this is the part I always used to laugh at, was all the people would sit there and be like, oh, the purples are worthless. Are you kidding me? The purples are great.
They're good. Yeah, if you can get a monopoly on the 2 shitty purple ones, yeah, you
can
get
absolutely.
good steady income.
Mediterranean Baltic?
That's
yeah.
Good income.
Oh, yeah.
I even know the names of them.
And everybody's always like, I always used to laugh because people be like, and people just never grasped it. It was like, everybody's like, oh, that's an easy one to pay off. Yeah.
Steady money. Good steady money.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It was like, oh, well, but yeah, the steady money. It was like, not only steady money, it was like, okay, I think it was like $200 to like land on a hotel or something like that, or $300. And everybody like,
because everyone is in a hurry to get past Boardwalk and go, and people would overshoot it and land on the two shitty purple ones.
Well, not only that, people were like, oh, I'm willing to pay this, and no one's realizing it's like, okay, you keep paying me so that I can use this to finance whatever else I'm paying for, and whatever else I'm putting stuff down on, and you go right ahead, you know. The amusing part was, the best is, if somehow you got the two purples, and somehow you had Boardwalk and Park Place.
Well, if you had the blues and the purples within that $200 corner, that was a big pit waiting going to that corner. And especially if you amplified everything up with your four houses, then you made hotels on all four of those properties.
The amusing part is, okay, so you've got the two blues. Okay, you can't put anything on them because you don't have the money. Oh, wait, they're going to keep landing on the purple. Well, okay, I keep taking all my money from the purple and keep putting it on the blue.
And put it into the blues, right.
And then my laugh always was, they're like, oh, thank God I got past the blue ones. Well, you still paid me.
Yeah, so got some of your money.
You dropped into the purple when you came to my slum and paid my gouge prices for being in my slum. But yeah, and my slum money is going into my upper crust Manhattan money.
Or for example, when other people were setting up on other parts of the board going, well, he's got no money because he's been sinking everything into the blues. It's like, no, I got money. You guys keep landing on purple. I'm all good.
And it's only a matter of time until they land on Park Place or Boardwalk.
Did you guys run that?
That's when you clean up, especially if you're hotel high.
Although I gotta be honest with you, the greens were always ones that.
Yeah, green and yellow can be pretty pricey too.
And red,
those are the Marvin Gardens. You got the Marvin Gardens. You got all the yellows, and then you got the Pennsylvania Avenues, which are all the green ones. Mm-hmm. And if you got that corner and you built up that 3 and 3 corner, which right where it says go straight to jail.
And I always used to laugh because to me it was like I always wanted the stuff on the early part of the board because it's like all that stuff's a lot less expensive. It's like, okay, give me the light blues, give me the oranges, give me the the magentas or whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll take those. Those are easy to pay for and easy to throw up there. And it's like, okay, you can keep going. It's like if enough people keep landing on that stuff, you can. Okay, I landed on Park Place. Here's your money.
If you buy them, if you buy them in a block, it's a block of reds or a block of green.
If you've got enough of that stuff, I always used to laugh because it's like there were a couple times where it's like, okay, I landed on Park Place. Oh, here's your 2,000. Oh, I need 2,000. I'm like, I'm sitting on like 4 because you guys keep paying me from from that other corner, all that stuff on those other corners. Here, take your 2,000. Good luck. You're still gonna have to go through my shit. Have fun.
Yeah. By the way, did you guys ever invest in the railroads at all? I mean, did you ever all 4 of them? Pennsylvania, B&O, and God, I can't believe I still remember.
You guys will enjoy this one.
What's that?
So the set I had in the house was the set I won from the game that I won. And it had something unique that everybody was pissed off about, but it wasn't my fault. It was a brand new game that we had opened, and for some strange reason, it had 2 of those go to the nearest railroad and pay 2 times.
Pay twice, the community chest or chance or whatever?
Yeah. But there wasn't one of those. There was 2 of them in the deck. Okay, and I just happened to have all 4 railroads because at the time I was like,
and that's $400.
Well, right, and it was funny because I was getting 2. That was nice too. I was like, I think I had the purples and I had the 4 railroads, and eventually I got around to it. And it was funny because I was getting cheap money, but I was getting money. And then there was 2 of those in there because I got paid twice. And people were like, that's bullshit. There's not supposed to be 2 of those in there. But I got and they happened almost nearby each other. So it was like, here's $800 extra dollars that I didn't expect to get. That I was like, oh, well.
Oh, thank you very much.
That does. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Rolling in that Monopoly money.
Well, let me ask you a different question.
You know something, guys? The next time we have our summit, when it gets that possible, we ought to play a game of Monopoly together.
Maybe.
I would like that. So
let me ask you a question. You said house rules. Yeah, we could. We could do that.
Yeah, we can stream that shit. Yeah.
What you say about house rules? If you landed straight up on go, did you get 400?
No.
Oh, we did that. We did that too. Yeah.
We did that.
If you landed straight up on go, you got 400.
And you got double the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that in our game too.
Yeah.
And there's also like a doubles rule. Like if you rolled double ones, you can go anywhere you want. Or double twos.
I don't know about that.
Or double fours, you get a community chest card. Something like that.
Well, also, then the treasure chest cards. Once you got through the stack of treasure chests and
community chest,
community chest. I say community chest, and then chances, chance cards at the end of them. I mean, you did the double shuffle on them, or you just let them sit. Did you shuffle them again?
Yeah, when the discard pile was,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. You just reshuffle them.
Yeah, you gotta reshuffle them, don't you? I would assume.
I do.
Yeah, once they run out, yeah.
I think the most interesting thing is it's funny because there was Ivan might remember, I had a buddy named John he had a friend of his that they sat down and created a double boarded Monopoly game.
What, 2 Monopoly games?
Yeah, basically
together?
What they did was they put it where it was they would connect them from the goes.
Whoa.
And so you got double the money double the starting money because it was double the board. And instead of rolling D6s, you rolled a D20.
Oh, Jesus.
To get around the board.
Whoa.
To get around the board. The only thing it was interesting because we ran it in general with a second board a couple times in general, but they actually created their own board and they had the weirdest cards that they had ever created. It was something they created as kids. There was literally a card where it was one of the cards literally was guess what? And it would say hi. It doesn't do anything. It just says hi. But I'll never forget because we were playing that version and, I get this card that says guess what? And I'm totally set up for the game. I'm doing great. And it says, guess what? Take all your stuff and give it to the person sitting to the left of you.
Oh my God.
Everybody shift one to the left. I'm like,
that
what?
Would drive me. That'd make me quit. If I was rolling in it.
I was not happy.
No.
Until it came up later in the game again, but we don't get into that.
If we were to design our own Squares of the Round Table Monopoly game, what would you put in it?
I don't know.
No,
that's a longer cover.
That's not a conversation for tonight.
No,
it's not. We should have that conversation, but not at the end of the show.
No.
But I'm saying, I'm planting a seed in your minds for next week, and you come back and we'll just pick it up lightly in the next show. And, I'd like to hear the ideas as to what you would do if you were able to design a Squares of the Round Table game. What would you put in it? That's all.
God. Man, that's a lot of thinking.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I know my portion. Okay, here, let me do better. If you take a part of the board, like a corner, like for example, if I took the 3 properties on each side of, say, go directly to jail, and created that, what would that creation be? That's it. Nothing more. Not hard. Name your 6 properties, and what you would put in those properties. I mean, mine would be musical related. musical related. And instead of going to jail,
yeah.
And then of course, instead of go to jail, we go to session.
Go to session.
I think it'd be cool.
So instead of Bard work, we're going to have premium Pornhub? Is that what we're saying?
You can do that. If you want to do that in your corner, where...
No, I'm just saying.
Or you could do that where instead of a jail, you could have it as a strip club or something, or...
well, that's not jail anymore, is it?
No, it's not jail. That's the opposite of jail. For Jeff.
Yeah, but you'd be blowing all that money over there in the strip club, see? And would you have enough money to get around the rest of the table and the rest of the board? If you blew
Why
all
would
your
I want
money...
to leave? Who cares about the rest of the board? I'm in the strip club. Who gives a shit?
Well, just like I said, just ideas for next week. Anyway.
Why would I want to leave? Wait, hold on. Why would I want to leave this strip club? I would just never leave. I'd just be like, okay, I'm going to stay here all game.
Eat, right? I mean, you're going to eat. I mean,
They have the crappy pizza. They have crappy food. I've been to enough strip clubs. They have the complimentary horrible food at some point.
That you have to leave after 48 hours because everybody's tired and want to go home.
Not bad. Depends. If you're in Vegas, there's a couple that are open 24/7, baby.
Oh no, I know that. That I know.
Right. Not all of them, just a couple. That was interesting.
Just a selected few, yeah.
Yeah. There were, and I've been. I was that one.
Well, okay, all right. Well, let's make this a little easier. Okay, your favorite thing. Okay, I know you're into. You're into the whole Star Wars situation. Mike's into the Transformer situation. I'm into the music situation. If we were to take separate pieces of the board and create it in our own images, I mean, just something to think about. Nothing more. Just something to think about.
Yeah. Maybe. All right.
Yeah,
well, we probably
just for fun. It's just for fun.
Jeez, have we been really talking that long? Okay.
This is the longest conversation I've ever had about Monopoly.
Yeah.
But that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't talked about gaming in a while anyway. That's part of it.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Yeah.
So do not pass go. Go directly to the Squirrels Roundtable Facebook page where you can see all these articles and things we talk about. Of course, our other show, News of the Squared. And, of course, we're on Instagram and Twitter at SOTRT Podcast. We're on YouTube. Click the bell, subscribe. You know when to get new content. Of course, you can listen to the show on all the usual podcast hosting platforms. Google, Spotify, Apple, Anchor. And you can email us at sotrtpodcast@gmail.com for all your Monopoly questions. Jeff and I will do our best to answer it, and Ivan will, Ivan too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I guess we're done for episode 119, or...
Is it 119 already? Wow. Well, thanks
in the morning.
For...
No,
it feels like it. Jeez, this show went forever.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us here at the Squares of the Roundtable. And on behalf of Jeff, Mike, and myself,
this show went long enough. This show went long enough that it might be time for them to listen to News of the Squared.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in that
coming up later in the week.
Yeah.
Take care.